Hey, soccer fans. Nick here with the Feed the Fire podcast. I think I have finally come down from the emotion and excitement of the Chicago Fire's first postseason victory since 2009, and am composed enough to be able to record the post-match podcast here. It is Thursday afternoon. The Fire were victorious over Orlando City in SeatGeek Stadium in Bridgeview last night by a score of 3-1. Goals by Brian Gutierrez and Hugo Cuypers. Cuypers with the brace pushes them into a matchup against the Philadelphia Union in the first round of the MLS Cup Playoffs. We're going to talk about the game. We're going to talk about the stats, the experience, being in the stands, being in the stadium and around the stadium. Then we're going to take a look at some other MLS headlines. Of course, everyone should have heard by now, Messi has signed his extension, and there's a few other postseason awards that they've released the finalists for. So we're going to go over all of that. If you would like to get involved with the show, please reach out to me via email, glasshousesoccer@gmail.com, or find me on social media at glasshoussoccer. Also, make sure you support our sponsor, Skira Icelandic Spring Water. Go get a bottle or two or 3 or 4 at your local 7-Eleven. I know the temperature is starting to drop here in Chicago. I got my first low tire pressure warning because everything got colder and the air tightened up in my tires, so I'm going to have to go put a little more air in them. But you still need to stay hydrated, and there's no better way to do it than with a few bottles of Skira Icelandic Spring Water. Now, turning our attention back to the Chicago Fire and the Eastern Conference wildcard game, Play-In Game, we can finally get rid of all the little asterisks and qualifications by saying it. The Fire are in the playoffs. It's done deal, and don't have to worry about saying playoff, play-in, wildcard, does it count? They are in the playoffs. They were victorious over Orlando City last night, 3-1. And I wanted to take a little bit from MLSsoccer.com, an article by Sam Jones on if you want to join and jump on a bandwagon of a team, if you have a postseason team that you want to follow, maybe your team didn't qualify, maybe you want to pick a team in another conference to track along, he put down a list of characteristics of these teams that if you like them, then you should follow this team in the postseason. So to kick off things here on the show, let's read what he says about the Chicago Fire. So if you're a fan of goals, breaking year-long streaks, finally making your parents proud, the episodes on King of the Hill where Bill gets a win, shows your parents want to watch on NBC, yeah, I think that's the one Chicago stuff, which... Side note, my wife has been an extra for several seasons on PD and Med and Fire, so I'm glad this all kind of ties back. I can kind of tie that into some of the Chicago Fire FC stuff. If you are fans of more goals, saying Joe Bamba in a Sheck West voice, I gotta go look that one up. I might be admitting my own ignorance here, but I'll look up Sheck West. Saying Zinkernagel in any voice, and stunts where even if you die, it will still look really cool, then you should be a fan of the Chicago Fire during these playoffs. No playoff team, Sam continues to write, has allowed more goals than Chicago, and only one team, Miami, has scored more. If you're thinking the scoring totals in EAFC should be the norm, these are your guys. And even if you're not interested in watching your team win or lose 5-4, there isn't a more lovable underdog in the bunch. Chicago are back in the playoffs for the first time since 2017, and just the third time since 2009. So that's what he says about the Chicago Fire. What's interesting is he goes on to say a few things about Orlando as well, and he starts his little blurb about the Purple Lions there with Orlando are ... confusing. At times they've looked like one of the best teams in the league. At other times they've earned one win in their final 7 games. Not totally clear what to expect for the group. So that was how he started off his summary of Orlando City and what to look out for in the playoffs for them. And unfortunately for Orlando, he was right on in describing the team as confusing and only winning 1 in their last 7. And are they in a slump? Can they get out of it? They have the talent, but will they perform? And they absolutely did not perform in this match. To kind of jump ahead to the post-game, I was listening to the Orlando Lions Den podcast post-game Twitter spaces, and nobody was in a good mood over there. The hosts were just kind of like, okay, let's get the fan reactions and let's do this thing and we can finally go home and call it an off season. The fans calling in were just hating on everything in the Orlando organization, from the owners being too cheap and not having a plan, to Oscar Pareja as a coach not being a championship contender coach. Yeah, he can rebuild a team, but he doesn't know how to win trophies. To the players performing poorly or not being talented enough. It just, everything is just the worst case scenario for the Orlando fan base, at least as of last night. So I hope they all woke up a little bit earlier today, just thinking, okay, maybe it wasn't as bad. As my dad always says, who cares about the result of the game? I still got to get up and go to work today. So hopefully life goes on for everyone in Orlando. But the playoffs will go on for everyone in Chicago. By the way, shout out to Mike at the Orlando Lions Den podcast. Appreciate you giving me a shout out on your show last night, and enjoy the offseason, boys. You're welcome to jump on the Chicago Fire bandwagon, as you heard Sam Jones preview it earlier, and it's been fun getting to know you guys a bit. So if anyone out there wants to learn a little bit more about Orlando, make sure you check out Orlando Lions Den podcast, as well as the Orlando City UK Twitter account as well. All right, getting back to our match, getting back to why we're so excited on this Thursday morning, Fire fans. Getting to the stadium was a problem for a lot of fans, and everyone is saying it is a problem for a lot of fans. So I want to address that really quickly. People are saying the attendance is down because it's not easy to get to Bridgeview. Now, for me, as a guy living in the northwest suburbs, whether it's Bridgeview, whether it's Soldier Field, or even the upcoming 78 project, it's all about the same to me. It's all about 45 minutes to an hour to drive. But I will tell you, it was so much easier to get out and get on the highway from SeatGeek last night than probably any Fire game I've been to in the last 2 years. Maybe that is because there was less attendance, or maybe that's just because it's easier to get out of Bridgeview than it is downtown Chicago. So I think the exit strategy is a little better, especially when you have all the lots kind of spread out, the 3 different lots around SeatGeek Stadium. They're all with their own individual entrance and exits, ingresses and egresses, rather than the entire parking lot facilities around Soldier Field all getting directed on a Lakeshore Drive pretty much in the same spot. So hopefully when they build the 78, they've addressed that. And I think there's enough survey responses and enough questions in the surveys about the ease of parking and exiting that is a priority for the club. But anyway, I digress about that sort of thing. A lot of people were saying, again, it's not easy to get to. That's why the numbers were down. You also got to recognize it's a Wednesday night game. It was probably around 50, if not less, degrees at kickoff. So that probably kept some of the other families away. You know, my guests and I, we were out there. We were slamming our beers in the parking lot before going inside, digging into some nachos. And if any of you follow CHGO Fire and their host Alex Campbell, definitely caught me on camera coming up asking me what I thought about the upcoming match while I'm eating my nachos. So if you want to see that little video content, go ahead and follow CHGO Fire and Alex Campbell as well. They do great work. They're in all the press conferences. They're putting out good podcast content and social media content as well. So it's great to see him and Emma, their social media guru, social media person, however her title is. But yeah, we were out there, we were having our beers. It would have been nice to have a little bit more outside the stadium. Like, they didn't have any of the games. They didn't have as many of the vendors, sponsors, stuff like that. But what I thought was nice then is that all that energy that the fans brought went right into the stadium. It wasn't, let's go and let's play the games and maybe the Fire will win a game. It brought all the energy into the stadium. One of the funny things, though, listening to the pregame music, it was a lot of Hispanic music, Mexican music, and then the guy about 5 or 6 cars up from us was playing Jamaican hip-hop, and I heard Shaggy in there for a little bit as well. So there was a nice little juxtaposition of music going on as we were doing our pre-game routine there, having a couple drinks, getting ready for the game. But when we got in, you could definitely feel a buzz in the stadium. The supporter sections just started to fill up and kept filling up and kept filling up, and people kept filtering there. You saw tons of people, right or wrong, trying to get closer seats, get closer to the field, moving in. I even got a message from a friend of mine who was sitting over in 106 who said anyone who was trying to go up to the second level on that side of the stadium, on the west side of the stadium, I believe, were being given tickets to come down to the 100 level to really pack it in and to really present a great crowd atmosphere. And it definitely worked. The attendance was announced at 13,700 something, 13,370 something. I forget exactly. Over 13,000 fans were there, and they were heard. I have been to many games at SeatGeek, and the atmosphere was just different last night. The fans in my section, I was over in 126, and the sections next on either side of us were cheering, yelling, screaming for most of the game. The supporters section were unified, were chanting. They had their chants. I love that they're trying to get the crowd involved with the one call and answer chant. So make sure, fans, you're listening for that at the next home game and even into next season. If they're going to yell fire and pause, you yell it back. If they're going to yell, let's go Chicago, let's go Chicago Fire, yell it back. Forget the exact chant now, but be ready for it because it's a cool call and answer. Reminds me of the old "Who's the best" fire chant that they used to be doing back when they were in Soldier Field the first time. So it was just an awesome atmosphere. Everyone was up, and man, everybody just wanted that one play to jump up and just blow the top off of the stadium. It didn't come in the first half. There were good opportunities. The Fire controlled the game. I'll give credit to Orlando. They did not approach this game as you would expect a team on the road in a wild card match to. Let's sit back, let's absorb pressure for 15, 20 minutes, let's see what the Fire are trying to do, and then take it to them and see if they can't steal a goal late in the first half. Orlando came out ready to play. They were as aggressive as the Fire were trying to be at their home stadium. However, Orlando just wasn't performing. In all aspects of this game, the Chicago Fire outworked, outplayed, and outperformed Orlando City. And I'm not saying that the Orlando players were slacking off or mailing it in. Nothing like that. They were working hard. But they just couldn't get anything going against a speedy, swarming, energetic, high-impact Chicago Fire team. You saw Waterman and Jay coming in with hard tackles. They definitely razzled Duncan McGuire throughout the course of this game. Even their playmaker, Ojeda, was having a hard time trying to get his head up and find any space in the midfield before you had Davila or Orahel or even Dean or Gutman pinching in. By the end of the second half, you saw Alex Freeman, who started out as an outside back for Orlando City. I think he was playing right back. Again, one of their bright spots in the league this season. I saw something that said he is one of the most productive players in terms of touches upfield or creating something in the league. He was the fourth most productive player by certain metrics in the league this season, behind Messi and Bouanga, and I forget who the third person is. So he has been a revelation, even getting himself in the U.S. men's national team mix this year. But he could not create on the wing. He could not find space. And by the end of the second half, he had moved into a central role to try to get more touches on the ball, to try to create something, and nothing was there. The only goal that Orlando scored was when the Chicago defender, and I forget if it was Dean or Waterman, slipped in the box, giving Spicer a free shot on goal, and he roofed it on Brady. It was a good shot, but yeah, by the way, the field condition was terrible. They was slipping all over. Well, I guess that's what you're going to get when there's a freeze the night before or the day of, and the soft grass on top is going to get ripped up because it's hard to anchor in that frozen ground. The roots might be frozen and fragile. So I'm no horticulturist, but pretty sure the freezing temperature had something to do with it, or at least the near freezing temperature had something to do with the condition of the field. You saw players slipping all over the place. But that's the only way Orlando was able to get a goal. Brady had come up with some good saves. Pasalic had an excellent one-time shot that could have turned the game around a little bit, but Brady was right there, diving down, getting his hand in front of the near post and making the save. So everything the Fire did worked. There was not one player on the Chicago Fire who had a bad game, or I would even say a mediocre game. And Greg Berhalter said it in his post-game conference, that the game ball could have gone to anybody. And he called out players too. He said, Brady making the saves, Guti with the goal, and Gutierrez hit the post twice more after that. Guti could have had a hat trick on the night. That's incredible to think of. From Orahel and Jay just running the midfield, shutting down the opposition. Any one of the defenders playing so well. Elliott coming back from a near concussion and a cut on the head in the first half to play so well. But he gave the game ball to the man who sealed the victory for the Fire, Hugo Cuypers. 2 goals, brace for him in the second half. Now let's take a look at some of these stats and facts about the match. As I mentioned, it was Gutierrez to open the scoring in the 48th minute, and then who went on before Cuypers' other goals in the next 10 minutes to hit the post twice. Cuypers then, like I said, seals the lead with his brace, seals the win with his brace, 57th minute and 68th minute. Gotta love that 57th minute goal. The ball is being played by the Fire. Great little 1-2 combination. That's why they work those rondo drills. They're passing the ball in and around the box through the Orlando City defense, and the ball kind of gets knocked away by a defender. Maybe tries to pass it back for a quick clearance by Gutierrez, but Hugo Cuypers' engine does not turn off. He does not have an off switch once he steps onto the field, and he hustled at that ball, and as Gutierrez goes to clear it, he gets his foot out and deflects the clearance right into the back of the net from like 5 yards out. A fantastic hustle play goal for Cuypers, set up by some beautiful team play in the offensive third in Orlando City's own box. So phenomenal play there. The one thing I really love to tell my son is, you see those warm-up drills that the Chicago Fire do where the attacking players are warming up and they kind of play the ball to the middle, and it's either Berhalter or another coach, or maybe the player who just took the shot turns and receives the pass and just kind of lays it off so they can just warm up and practice their finishing. That was the goal for Gutierrez. Ball gets played up, it gets laid off to him about the top of the box, and he slots it into right inside the left post there as he shoots, as he faces, so to Gutierrez's right. So it was cool to see so much come together for the Chicago Fire in this matchup. Little wrinkle in the lineup, though. People were kind of wondering, are they going to come out with their 3 center back formation? Are they going to go back to their 4-3-3? Who's going to be starting in the midfield? I had advocated for Gutierrez and Orahel to be starting in this one over Kwame and Davila based on their most recent performances. But Greg went back to the 4-3-3 to try and generate a little bit more offense. We had Brady starting in goal, Jack Elliott and Joel Waterman as your starting center backs. Jack Elliott again wearing the captain's armband. Great to hear cheers of Captain Jack when he got up from his head injury. Gutman as the left outside back, Jonathan Dean on the right side. And by the way, I know I've said everyone on the team had a great game, had a good game at least. Jonathan Dean, excellent game. He came across at one point and probably broke up Orlando City's best scoring opportunity other than the goal they actually had. To keep, I forget if it was in the, I think it was in the first half. So to keep it level at 0, he just comes flying across out of nowhere. And I'm sure if you were watching it on TV, Dean's not on your screen, and then he's sliding through the box, blocking a shot or clearing it away from the Orlando player, which would have been probably a goal from where it was getting teed off at. So Dean had just a great defensive night as well, and then also pushing forward, chipping in on the attack. You had Davila as your central midfielder and Gutierrez and Orahel supporting him. It was nice to see Gutierrez being able to push up and play some offense. Davila being able to drop a little deeper, pick the ball up, drive it forward as he does. He was even, when the Fire were up 2-0, he was even like dancing with the ball in the middle of the field, like daring these Orlando players to come take his legs out to try to get the ball from him. So there was a lot of confidence in this team once they went up 2-0 to try some things and to keep possession and maybe create a third and fourth or fifth goal, because the fans wanted it. I think the team wanted it too. Orahel, another fantastic performance. The guy knows where to play the ball. All his early season struggles seem to be behind him. He seems to be much more comfortable in the system that Berhalter has instilled. When he gets the ball, he knows where to go with it. And he is great at tracking back and getting it on defense. And he did get subbed out in the second half, hopefully to rest some of those legs and get him ready for the matchup against Philadelphia. Attacking 3, Cuypers up front, Bamba and Zinkernagel on the wings. And again, we did see the subs. We saw Acosta, Haile Selassie get in, as well as Romanique Kwame. Now, I don't know if it's going to bite the Chicago Fire on Sunday with Cuypers and Zinkernagel playing a full 90, and not just a full 90, a hard 90. There were some hard tackles by Orlando City. There was some chippiness throughout the course of the game. Maybe not with these two guys directly. I know Cuypers was doing a lot of battling for some aerial balls that resulted in him getting knocked around a bit. But will their legs last? They're going to have to play as intense, if not more intense, in this upcoming series against Philadelphia. So that's one little storyline maybe you want to keep an eye on, Fire fans, is how much rest they're going to be getting and how quickly they're going to be able to get off against Philadelphia. All right, let's take a look now at the stats for this match, and I think you're going to be very pleased with the way the Fire played. They ended up with 52.4% possession, 25 shots, 9 on goal. That's a ridiculous amount of shots for the Chicago Fire this season. And one of the reasons you saw such an outburst of offense in the second half in particular was Greg Berhalter said, at halftime, I told these guys, we've got to keep running in behind. We're going to wear them down. And that's exactly what happened. Even though he didn't get on the score sheet, Jonathan Bamba's runs in behind stretch the Orlando City defense, keep the keeper, and keep these center backs honest. He is an outlet for any other player on the field. Whether you're Jack Elliott or Joel Waterman looking to get a long ball off, whether you're Dean or Gutman, depending on what side they're on. Usually it's Gutman on the left with Bamba. If you're any of those midfielders, like I said, Odahel or Davila, just they know where he is and when he's going to make those runs. He is an outlet player, and while he didn't score, or I don't think he picked up an assist either, the man created havoc and wore out that Orlando City defense, and I think wore out Pedro Gallese, even if just mentally, always having to worry about him. So another phenomenal game by Bamba, and I didn't look up his individual stats for this game, but I imagine he chipped in a number of those shots. Taking a look at the, do they have the XG over here? Here we go. Chicago Fire expected goals, 3.5, again off of 25 shots, 9 of which were on target. Great offensive output by the Fire. They ended up with 465 total passes at 84.5% passing accuracy. The defense ended up with 6 blocked shots, or six shots were blocked, 3 corners, so no hot dog, but I'll take the win. 5 crosses from the Fire, 2 offsides. I will live with that each and every day. It shows they're pushing the back line. They won 6 aerial duels to Orlando's 10, so maybe that's something we've got to look out. And maybe with Jack Elliott taking an early bang to the head, kind of threw off the aerial game a bit. But again, you can't be upset about the other hustle, work rate, and of course the result. Brady was credited with 3 saves. The defense had 8 clearances, 11 fouls, and only 1 yellow card to Orlando's 3. So that's the statistical review of this match, but it just doesn't do justice to the Chicago Fire team for their work rate, for their energy, for their intensity. You saw Davila, Zinkernagel, Gutierrez working the crowd when they were getting into the corner kick positions or after the goals. When Gutierrez celebrated, he jumps into the supporter section, and the whole team follows him over into the supporter section to celebrate the goal. Fantastic atmosphere, fantastic performance by the Fire, and again, as Berhalter said post-game in the locker room, we've got to turn it up and do it again at Philadelphia. I know in my last podcast previewing this Orlando City game, I said I expect the Fire to win. I don't expect them to advance past Philadelphia, but my goodness, if they play like this, or if they even have another level to turn it up to, as Berhalter intimated, they will definitely win one of these games against Philly and possibly take the series. So I don't want to get ahead of myself because we know how well Philly's played all season. They're the Supporter Shield winners for a reason. They are consistent. They are dangerous. They've beat the Fire both games this season. A combined 5-0 goal aggregate, right? In the most recent game, 4-0 in Philly. So we know how well they can play. They seem to have the Fire's number, but this is a different Fire team. This is a different Fire team than the regular season team, who is still figuring out a little bit of who their go-to players are, who their starters are going to be, what formation they're going to be playing, 4-3-3, 3-5-2, and Berhalter said they switched back to the 4-3-3 because they wanted more offense. So we'll see if that continues against the Philadelphia team, who is not only good in possession but also good on the counter. So we'll see. But the Fire did what they needed to do. They shut down the playmakers for Orlando City. They really got on Ojeda fast. You saw Jay. There were times when I'm like, keep pushing up, pressure, press. Let Cuypers and Bamba push up and press their center backs, and then you press the outlet. But he was staying a little bit deeper, and I realized that was to make sure Ojeda couldn't get into space and orchestrate a counterattack or a build-up. So well coached, well defended. They're going to have to do it to the next level against Philadelphia. Speaking of coaching and speaking of Jay, we did see in the beginning of the matchup, when the Fire had the ball in possession in their own defensive third, when they were trying to build out of the back a little bit, you saw that Orlando City had two guys ready to pounce on Jay. They were looking to him to make a mistake or create a mistake with him. And he played very well in this game, but the Fire also gave Brady the freedom to play it long. They also had Orahel and Gutierrez in spots where they could really facilitate some one-touch play either out on the side in order to alleviate the pressure, stretch out that defense, alleviate the pressure on Jay, and stretch out the press a little bit more and find passing lanes. So again, a not only well-coached and well-planned match, a very well-executed game by the Chicago Fire. And so now we as Fire fans and MLS Cup Playoff fans and just Soccer in America fans get to look forward to a great matchup this upcoming Sunday, October 26th, 4:30 p.m. kickoff Eastern Time, or I'm sorry, Central Time, 4:30 Central, 5:30 Eastern at Subaru Park in Philadelphia. So let's go Fire with that one. Couple other things as we kind of enjoy all that had to happen over the last week or so. I wanted to give you just some additional headlines and things. Andrew Gutman was named the Iron Man of the squad by the Chicago Fire. He's only the fourth player in Fire history to start 34 regular season matches. So from a guy who ended up missing almost all of last season from an injury on opening day at home to starting all 34 games, I think he had a career year as far as goals and assists go, or goal contributions go, but also just the way he fit into Berhalter's system, came home and embraced the fans, the city, and the club again as a homegrown, not a homegrown, but as someone in the academy system who's had a bit of a journeyman career. The way to see him come back and then play 34 games this year, and not just play, but have an impact in each of those games. Kudos to Andrew Gutman being named the team Iron Man. Also, just some other fun stuff. My wife sent me some other social media fun stuff. My wife sent me a text. She went to check the Chicago Fire score at halftime. She was home with the kids. They were watching some shows, having some dessert, just enjoying the night without me yelling at the TV and watching the game. So she looks up the Chicago Fire FC. She does a Google search for Chicago Fire FC to see how the game is progressing at halftime. And my tweet was featured on the Google results homepage where I said, "Good first half by the Fire, everything but the goal. Fans are rocking the geek tonight." And that ended up making the front page of Google. And then one of my other tweets that I put out today was liked by Chris Brady. So I feel very, very good about all of that. Just a little bit of that social media bumping. Those kind of things, right? A couple other headlines from around the league. As I mentioned before, Leo Messi extends his contract with Inter Miami. The extension will keep him in South Florida through 2028. He ended up with the Golden Boot this year, 29 goals and 19 assists. He had 48 goal contributions then. That is one off the single season record held by Carlos Vela in his time at LAFC. And he will probably become the first back-to-back MVP winner in Major League Soccer history. Only a couple guys have won it twice. I know Preki did. I don't think anyone else has won it twice. Got to get my trivia back in line here. But he will be the first, if he does win it, to do so in back-to-back seasons. Last couple things from around the league. MLS has announced the year-end awards finalists. So the clubs with the most players in these awards will be LAFC, Philadelphia, San Diego, and Vancouver. They each have 3 finalists across the various categories. So, by alphabetical order, not by my choice or anyone else's choice or preference, here are the finalists for the league awards. MVP finalists. Shouldn't come as a surprise to anyone who's been following this league. Denny Bouanga, Anders Dreyer, Evander, Leo Messi, and Sam Surridge. All attacking talent, all goal scorers, all faces of their franchises, faces that the league has used to promote and market. An amazing group of players here. Coach of the year, Bradley Carnell in Philadelphia, Jesper Sorensen of Vancouver, and Mikey Veras of San Diego. Yeah, of course, if you're going to have the top team in the East and West put their coach there, especially what Carnell had to do after Jim Curtin departed, and Vancouver having a resurgence as well as getting Thomas Mueller in the mix, having Berhalter take the next step, and just the all-around great play in Vancouver there. So not a surprise there. I would have loved to see Berhalter get a nod just because of how bad the Fire have been over the last 2-3 seasons, to get them to be the second highest goal scoring team in the league, get them back in the playoffs again, just everything he's had to transform with that club. But this is a coaching award, so I guess they're just giving it for on the field performances. Hard to argue against those 3. Now, newcomer of the year is an interesting category. It is defined as a player with previous professional experience who debuted in MLS in 2025. So those go to Chicago's own Philip Zinkernagel as a finalist, Anders Dreyer, and Son Heung-min of LAFC. I find it interesting that they put Son in the mix despite him only coming over mid-season. He was a summer transfer into LAFC, but because of his goal production, which was incredibly high per 90 even in his short time here, I guess they decided to put him in. Now, I would bet that Messi ends up with the MVP award, opening the door for voters to give Dreyer the newcomer of the year. It wouldn't surprise me if Dreyer ends up, first or second, even in MVP voting. I think he has a better case than Evander and Sam Surridge, who, again, worthy of the nomination, but I think Dreyer has done a lot more statistically and as well as for his club. So I think it comes down to Messi and Dreyer. It would be hard for me to give Bouanga the MVP if he's been playing alongside the newcomer of the year as well, and a player like Son. So I think Dreyer's contributions are more felt with San Diego, but maybe people are going to feel he should win something, so they're going to give him the award, or maybe they're going to feel Son should win something, so they'll give him the award over Zinkernagel, which to me would be a tragedy if that's how anyone votes. But to me, this has to be a race between Dreyer and Zinkernagel. Young Player of the Year, which is an award given to the best young player during the 2025 MLS regular season. The eligible player must be born on or after January 1st, 2003. God, it sounds weird for me to say. Someone born after 03. I was graduating high school in 03. So the Young Player of the Year awards, we're looking at Alex Freeman, Diego Luna, and Obed Vargas. This is going to be a tough one just because of how well Alex Freeman and Diego Luna have played, and then getting more time with the national team. Not to take away from Obed Vargas, but Vargas has done so well with Seattle. He has been a name in the league for so long. He has had big moments for Seattle this season, so it'll be tough. This is going to be a real fun race to watch. Defender of the Year finalists, Tristan Blackman, Vancouver, Jakob Glesnes, Philadelphia, and Kai Wagner, Philadelphia. Maybe we got a little Bull Moose thing here where 2 guys from Philly will split votes and it'll be Tristan Blackman from Vancouver. But I do think Blackman is more than deserving on his own merits. Goalkeeper of the Year, Matt Freese, New York City, Dane St. Clair, Minnesota, and Yohei Takaoka of Vancouver. All deserving players. I'm going to go hometown homer here and still think Chris Brady's a better overall player than any of them. But when you are the goalkeeper for the team that's given up the most goals in the season, you're not going to get this type of nod. Comeback Player of the Year. This is going to be an interesting one. And the article says it honors an MLS player who has overcome a severe injury and or adversity and as a result missed a significant portion of the 2024 season and shown improved performance to achieve success during the 2025 regular season. You could probably throw Andrew Gutman in this category, but their final three are Lawrence Anali of Houston, Nick Hagland of Cincinnati, and Richie Larea of Toronto. The final category that MLS issues an award for are the Audi Goals Drive Progress Impact Award, which honors a player who has showed outstanding dedication to charitable efforts and serving the community during the season. Those go to Ryan Hollingshead of LAFC, Diego Luna, Salt Lake, and Brad Stuver of Austin FC. Wouldn't surprise me to see Brad Stuver walk away with that one, especially having the All-Star game in Austin and him getting a lot more attention there. Again, not to take away from the actual charitable work these guys are doing, but I think that is another. There's already been a lot of light shined on LAFC and to a lesser extent Salt Lake and Luna, so wouldn't surprise me to see that end up with Brad Stuver. Well, that's everything for this show. Thank you all for listening, for tuning in, liking, subscribing, rating, reviewing, watching on YouTube, listening on the podcast. Share the show. Let's continue to grow the conversation around the fire, around MLS and soccer in America. And as always, let's go Fire.